Thanks for joining another edition of Trail Runner Nation. My name is Scott Warr.
I'm Andy Jones-Wilkins.
And if you've been looking at your calendar, you've probably guessed it's time for Audio Magazine. And that's what we're doing, gentlemen. We're doing Audio Magazine as our next episode. And to kind of review the rules of Audio Magazine, already laughter. And I'll tell you, I've taken a few ribs along the way as they have already drawn squares and put in bets. Can I pull this introduction off? And they all ended up with the same square, and I'll let you guess which one. So Audio Magazine is when we each come with two topics, something that we have found out there in the literature. Maybe we've experienced it in real life, and we're bringing it to the table for discussion. That sounds good so far.
So far, you're right on the money.
Good. And then we come up with a title of what this article is about. And then the other two people at the table guess the content. Oh, I think you're talking about X. And that's part of the fun of just guessing what it might be about.
And because we're not writers, well, at least two of the three of us are not writers. Our titles are usually not well descriptive of the article themselves. So that's what makes it kind of fun. The title may have something to do with the article, but it may not be a full, good description of the article.
And that's done intentionally.
Did you know that, Don?
Don? We don't want to lead the person right down the path. We want it to be a little bit cryptic. And so we keep it in the same language. You know, it's very cryptic in some sense. Is that about right, AJW?
That was excellent, Don. I think you nailed it. Yeah, we go the person names the title, we kind of go around the horn with guessing them, and then the person reveals the article, and at the end of the podcast you have a wonderful selection of 6 award-winning articles that you can read during your holiday vacation.
Good. We have Ryan Warr, our editor, on this show as well. Ryan, have we hit record yet? I mean, because we nailed it, and I hope we don't have to do it again.
Yeah, I think that's a good take. We'll use it.
Okay. All right. So who's up first, Ryan? You're calling on the first, and you're rolling the dice. You've got the bingo wheel spinning, and you're going to select one of us.
All right. Let's kick it off with AJW.
Nice.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. And I've been spent the better part of the last couple of weeks working on these topics, and I think that you'll find them thought-provoking. So the first article, it's a pretty interesting title, a little bit of a play on words, but this article, it's a rather lengthy article in the sort of middle of the magazine. It's called.
That's the centerfold.
That's right. This article's called "Out with the New, In with the Old." Out with the new, in with the old. So a little bit of a twist on the out with the old, in with the new that we talk a lot about at this time of year. But this is out with the new, in with the old.
Well, I think in the beginning, AJW, we said cryptic, but we didn't. But I don't think you heard that, because this is easy. Right now. What I'm going to tell you is exactly what this article is about. Out with the new, in with the old. Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay, good. I think you're calling to the rapid change that we have in the ultra running scene. Races coming in. New people sponsoring and new race directors coming in. They're more corporate, perhaps. And now our community is calling back to the fat ass race, to the small community races that we all were introduced to and we long for. So I think we're we're completing the circle. We're about to touch the other end of that line that's going to bring us back to where we started.
I'm going to go a completely different route. And AJW, I'm sure I'm right, because you tipped yourself off before you said the article name. You said it's a play on words. I think if you were to read the article title, new would be spelled GNU, which is actually an animal. It's a wildebeest. And I think that he's saying out with the new. That means that, it's about time. It's about time that we got rid of these wild wildebeests on the trail. there's still a few trail runs out there, I'm sure, that are using wildebeests as pack mules, kind of like the mule racing. There's places that use the new racing, and I think that AJW is finally calling to his PETA roots and saying we need to get out with the new. The wildebeests, they shouldn't be slaves to our trail running sport. And I have no idea what he means with in with the old.
No,
so,
Scott.
Anyway,
Scott, I think you're exactly right. I don't know how I fell for the obvious trap. Right?
Exactly.
It was so obvious that he knew he would take one of us down that path. And I'm actually voting for what you said, Scott. Let's learn what AJW was thinking.
How close were we, AJW?
Don was closer than you, Scott, not surprisingly. And in that it's actually the notion of, and by the way, I think the article Don talks about might be a really interesting article, right? That we're at a time in the sport where there's all this new stuff, and maybe there's an interest on the part of participants to kind of go back to our roots and back to the old days. But this is an article about running shoes. It's an article about running shoes, and it's kind of the end of 23, beginning of 2024. And we have heard, especially the last 24 months, about, carbon plate this and super shoes and shoes that are $500, $600, $700, $800 a pair. And I think we've gotten to a time of a saturation in the market, where as we look ahead to 2024, participants are going to be looking back to just the classic kind of 8mm drop, medium stability, cushion shoes, kind of a return to the old school running shoe, not necessarily the big old heavy, New Balance that our grandpas wore back in the day, but just that kind of simple, straightforward, classic, old style running shoe. So in this article, and you mentioned, Don, it's a centerfold. The centerfold article, the centerfold spread in between the, talking about this movement, is this wonderful two-sided photograph where you've got one photograph of the shiny carbon-plated super shoe and another photograph of just a classic old Nike waffle shoe from back in the 70s. I think we're going back to the old in terms of running shoe technology, and that is what this article's about.
Wow, that's a fascinating article.
Andy, have you tried any of the carbon-plated or super shoes?
So they had some. There was a couple of different shoe companies that were here in the area when the Javelina 100 was going on. I just tried a pair on and kind of walked around the parking lot. I haven't actually tried to run with a pair. So I think I would, when I start running a little bit more than I'm running right now. I am running again, but not, I'm running really in sort of old super cushion shoes because I've got to, protect these new hips that I have. But I'd be curious to try some. I do know that I was just this last weekend doing race coverage for the Desert Solstice Track Invitational here in Phoenix, and quite a few of the runners had carbon-plated shoes that they switched out of after a period of time. Some of them went 30 miles. Zach Bitter, for example, started in a pair of carbon-plated and then switched out of them. Scott Trayer, who ended up getting 161 miles in 24 hours, switched about a third of the way in. So I don't know. I think the court's still out, but of course this article is saying boo on all that. We're going back to the old school.
Well, it gives me an opportunity to share our experience, Scott. As you know, we're always researching and checking things out. I put a carbon plate on my right foot and then a standard shoe on my left, and I just ran in a circle because my right leg was so much faster.
Actually, he's joking, of course. But Don and I did recently get a pair of the carbon-plated shoes, and this tells you a little bit more about Don and his personality. We had probably taken 10 steps down the trail, and he was just going, "This is the best shoe I've ever tried on in my entire life." And I'm saying, I can't tell the difference whether I have a carbon plate or a cardboard plate. I can't tell a difference at all. And so I'm not convinced. I'm not going for any records. I'm not trying to decrease my 100-mile time by 3 seconds. And all I know is they were a lot more expensive than the regular shoe. So the jury is out. I think I would be a proponent of your article title there, AJW.
Real good.
All right, who's next?
I think that was, you came right. You came right. The first hole, first got a tee off, straight down the fairway. That was a shot to try to repeat. That was good.
Oh, thank you. I was really impressed with Scott's GNU for new. That
I'm going to look that up. I don't think it's anything at all.
If he puts that in the infographic for the podcast, I'll be impressed.
All right, Ryan.
All right, let's go with Don.
Oh no. Okay, good. Well, I was looking forward to this. Hey, the title that I made up right after the introduction is "That's Not My Beat." That's not my beat. And they're bold letters. It's a very proud title.
I think you're going to get back to cadence. It's got to be about cadence, that 180 beat cadence, and knowing that it doesn't really matter how fast you're going or what your form is. If you can get a playlist that has that 160 to 180 beats per minute, then you're going to have good form. So I think it's about cadence.
That's interesting, Scott.
I think it's not BEAT.
It's GNU.
It's no. It's BEET.
Oh, nutrition.
That's not my beat. You have seen over the last couple of years an explosion of nutrition products coming from the sort of plant-based economy, some of which are sort of beet juice and beetroot and beet. And this article is debunking some of that. I think that's not my beat. You see the picture, and there's a little kind of rotten beat at the end of the title, with the it's like, you know what? I know it might work for some of all y'all out there, but that's not my beat. I'm not going to be sipping on beet juice and eating beets to, free up my fatty acids in my stomach. So this is an article. I mean, it starts with that, but this is an article about this complete and total, phenomenon of plant-based nutritional supplements, saying that that's not my beat. I'm sticking with good old fashioned gels and Gatorade and water.
Freeman, you should just go with that one.
Yeah, no,
there's no way that your article is better than that.
It's not. In fact, the image has a person's running legs underneath the beat, and they're wearing carbon plate shoes. So, well done. But I don't want to disappoint you guys. But it's really about an article that I found in Outside Magazine, and it is written by Erin Bassini, and it was written back a few years back, August 9th, 2012. And the title she wrote was, "Will Listening to Music Make Me Faster?" I don't know. And she cites two very interesting studies, and I wanted to bring that up. But this is an interesting article because it starts out with the survey. And the first part of the survey asks you, and I'm asking you, do you run with music? Or in training or during races? Is it important to you? I'm going to ask you first, Scott. Do you run with music?
I'm not opposed to running with music, but I found that I'd rather listen to an audiobook or a podcast. So I'm typically not listening to music, but I am listening to something.
So what percentage of the time, this is an extended question, AJW, but it comes back to you as well. So this is an interesting article. It's one of those interactive articles. And so, Scott, what percentage of the time do you run with music or podcasts rather, and books, and when do you go absent?
When I am running alone, 100%.
Okay.
100%. I always have something in.
How about you, AJW? What's the same to you?
Only when I'm doing indoor things. So only if, obviously I have to do a lot of rehab and a lot of prehab and things in the gym. When I'm in the gym, whether it's on the elliptical, the treadmill, doing weights, the Stairmaster or the bike, I have music in. But when I run outside, which is most of the time that I run, whether it's in my neighborhood or in the trails nearby, no music. So in any given, in terms of percentages, I probably run outside of my total exercise time. I probably have outside 70% of the time and inside 30% of the time. But 30% is, I'll have the music in and the occasional podcast. But I'm more of a music listener when I'm in the gym.
Well, let's see if Aaron's article that cites a couple of interesting.
What about you, Don? Tell us about what. How did you answer the survey?
Well, it's the same way you did. If I'm running by myself, I kind of like to have something with me to keep me company. When I'm running with you, then you and I seem to fill up the air. But during races, I have it with me mandatory, but only listen to it very rarely. I save it if I need it. I don't want to be distracted. I'm plenty busy thinking about what's going on. And I think when I plug in, I kind of tune out of myself and tune into what I'm listening to. So for me, during a race, hardly ever. During training, all the time. I should probably think about that. But Erin has some good points for us here. She cites a couple of recent articles in 2012. Listening to music while racing or working out can also improve performance. This first study, they found a group of swimmers who listened to music while in the pool. They used this Swim MP3. They trialed significantly faster when they did it without music.
Without
music.
So they were faster without music.
Without music, yeah.
Oh.
And then there's a second study here, but that's interesting. They were able to focus on what they were doing and concentrate. I'm speculating, but this is a podcast. We're allowed to do that. The second study found that the runners who listened to the music during the beginning of a 5K were able to run faster, but felt about the same level of discomfort and fatigue as when they were running slower without music.
Interesting.
So, interesting as music has become, always, do you listen or don't you listen? There's great tools out where you can still be engaged to the outside world and listen and hear sounds and people behind you with a bike trying to pass with a bell or on your left. You need to stay engaged when you're out there. The worst thing you can, one of the worst things you can do is, and it's really not trail etiquette and a little bit of rudeness, to be closed off so you don't know what's going on around you. You need it for safety, number one. Rattlesnakes have rattles for a reason. And two, you've got to be courteous to other trail users.
So Don, what's the article about? The It's Not My Beat article. Is it this kind of comparison of people who listen to music versus don't?
Well, I wrote it during the introduction, so I didn't put a lot of thought into it. And part of my strategy was not thinking much about it would really help keep it obscure and not really tip my title right off to the article. So I think as it turns out, that intuition of It's Not My Beat, I thought maybe I would lead you down the path of, this could be about police officers that have a beat and they're walking through town. It could be that. So there wasn't much rhyme or reason to it, AJW.
I've got a tidbit.
Okay.
Aaron Barasini was in my 8th grade social studies class at Phoenix Country Day School in 1996.
Is that right?
Kidding.
True story. Yeah, Aaron grew up here in Phoenix and went to Phoenix Country Day School. She was in my social studies class, and she graduated in 2000. And in 2000, she was a very successful triathlete herself, and has been writing for Outside Magazine. Well, of course, this article is from 2012, but she's been writing for Outside Magazine since she was in her early 20s. And so we kind of refound each other when I discovered her writing in Outside Magazine, and she discovered my writings in I Run Far, and we keep in touch from time to time. But she's great, and she writes these kinds of articles for Outside all the time. So nice little tip. When you said Aaron Barasini, I was like, oh, I've got to put this in there. And by the way, not surprisingly, she was an awesome student in school, a great student athlete, involved in student government and everything else. Just a wonderful kid at the school. So
I'm glad you clarified when you said she was in your social studies class. I thought you two were the same age taking the social studies class, but you were teaching.
I was her teacher.
Got
Yeah,
it.
she was in the she was in the 8th grade when I was teaching.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I should have clarified.
I thought too. I see her picture on here, and I thought, well, she's weathered well. AJW. You guys are the same age.
What happened to you?
No. She's probably, let's see, graduated high school. So she was 18 years old in 2000. So she's, whatever, late 30s, early 40s.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, Ryan. I think it's your turn to spin that bingo wheel and see if Scott comes up or AJW and I go again.
Let's go, Scott.
All right.
My title is actually in a current event section of the magazine, and it's Hold On to Your Wallet. Yep, that's right. Hold on to your wallet.
Is this one of those double pages like AJW had, and you're only reading half of it? Okay.
No, this is a short article. It's not a centerfold, not a main feature.
Okay, hold on to your wallet.
What was it? What was the first thing you said about the article?
It's a current event.
Oh, current event. A current event.
It's in the current event section. So it's not the research. It's not the deep philosophical article. This is the current event section of the magazine.
Oh,
is there any? One more question of clarification. Hold it. You can go first. Is there any images or pictures that accompany this, like the beat that was running, or can you help us out?
Oh, no. You have to come up with what image you think you're going to see.
Okay. Go ahead, AJW.
Look, for the last couple of years, the country and the world has been battling inflation. This is about inflation. Hold on to your wallet. Be careful. Race entry fees are going up. Price of shoes is going up. The price of gas to get to the trailhead is going up. This article is saying, hey, look, kind of similar to my out with the new, in with the old. Look, it's just running. All you need is a pair of shoes, pair of shorts, get out there. Hold on to your wallet. Don't sign up for races, this article says. Don't just go out and run like we did. We all did fine in COVID, doing SKTs and everything. So let's just go out there and enjoy being out there. Hold on to your wallet. We're in this state of extended inflation. Don't spend any more money than you need to. Stick to your roots and just go out there and run.
I like the subtle dig that AJW had on SKTs there, Don. I'm glad that you're probably glad that he didn't elaborate on that.
I made note of that. I wrote it here on my paper as I take notes, just in case a thought escapes from my mind. But I did notice that he found a way to bring in the slowest known time ever for a Western States run, where we started at the COVID year, where we started at the beginning and ran to the end, and we used a calendar rather than a watch to figure out how long it took.
It was amazing. Scott was able to crew you guys, go work a whole day of work, sleep through the night, go back, crew you again. I remember talking to him
and meet him at halfway.
He's sitting there at Devil's Thumb, and he's like, I gotta go to work. I don't think I'll just leave a bucket by the tree and they can hope for the best.
Hold on to your wallet. Scott's not one to try to hit it on the nose. So I'm going to really think out of the box here. And of course, my head's on a swivel. I'm in the athletic stance trying to figure out where he's going with this. And as and the longer I take to try to figure it out, the further away I get from my answer. So I think Scott's talking about, there's a lot of things to remember to get to a race. I mean, you've got to have the gear, you've got to have, it's a checklist really. And sometimes, we forget the most obvious thing. I've got my pack, I've got my electrolytes, I've got my carbohydrates that I need, and off you go. You've even got your favorite socks, and you get down the road and you go, but I don't have my wallet. And it's just a word of warning to go, have that list and check it off before you start your car. I think that's what he's talking about.
Do you think the listeners actually have as much fun listening to this as we do talking about it? Probably
No,
not. And
no,
if so, we apologize.
wait, Scott, I got to say something. If you actually heard this, go ahead and mention it because we don't really think anybody's out there at this point.
All right. Well, both of you gave very valiant. Well, AJW gave it a valiant effort. No, this is again the key little hint was it's a current event, and I'm going back to November, the end of November, and it was the time over in Africa, South Africa, where they were running the Ultra Trail Cape Town race. And I don't know if you heard about this, but during the race there were 3 runners that were mugged. And this article is just to recap that, and as a warning to us out there that some of this stuff could happen. One of our previous guests, Tom Evans, was training for that race a few days before, and he was out on a run. And as you recall, if you don't know, Tom Evans is a former British Army captain, so he knows a little bit about self-defense. But he got mugged. He was held at knife point and beaten, and all of his possessions were taken. And he was so shook up about it and beat up about it. I think he ended up being okay, physically, no permanent damage, but it was such a strain on him that he went home. He did not participate in the race, which I don't blame him for. I think I would have done the same exact thing. But this article is more of a warning that even though we are trail brothers and sisters, we have to pay attention to our surroundings, whether we're running on the streets with cars, what types of neighborhoods we're running in. If you travel a lot, make sure you talk to the hotel you're staying at and find out, where are the safe places to run. If you're running out on the trails, know what's out there. Is it elk and deer breeding season? Are there grizzlies out there? Is it the time when those bears are having their cubs and are very defensive and look out for? So it's more of a warning article, and it's too bad that this happened to those 3 runners that were racing the race, and especially to Tom Evans. It kind of gives that race a black eye. But hopefully we can get beyond that and be safe out there.
Nice. Well, that's a nice word of warning, Scott. Is that page, published on a pink or red or anything to call it to our attention as we hear it is a very good warning for us.
It's on the cover.
Okay.
It's the title's on the cover, so you can
very good. Very good.
By the way, I wanted a side note. I strongly encourage the listeners, if they didn't hear the Tom Evans episode that you guys did after he won Western States this past June, go back and listen to it. It was a really, really thoughtful and thorough conversation about his preparation. We talk a lot about the professionalization of trail and ultra running, and that it really came out that he left no stone unturned in his preparation for that race. Gear, nutrition, cooling strategy, even though it wasn't a very hot day, execution, sticking to his race plan for any level of runner, from elite to back of the packer. It's well worth a listen. It was a great interview.
I need to go back and re-listen to it.
I hate to be Captain Obvious here, but I would like to mention that we have 3 participants here. We've done 3 topics each. We're going to do a total of 6. And if you look at the time marker, we're at 29 minutes. That's how well-oiled machine TRN is. I mean, we are on it.
Or it's well edited.
Right. And we don't even have the countdown clock anymore to keep us in line. So
Ryan, back to you.
All right, let's go back up to the top. AJW.
Right on.
All right. I've got my second topic. Is this is not a play on words, but it's something we've all heard. A version of this we've all heard before. But this article is called "I Really Don't Like to Drive That Far." The really is in I really don't like to drive that far.
Scott, I give you first shot, and if you need some time to think, I know what it is.
You go, Don. I need some time to ruminate.
He's talking about the carbon footprint, the impact that we have to travel to races, right? And so, we have a lot of options. We have local races. We have distant races. We can get on a plane and fly to a race to run the same amount of miles. And so I think what AJW is doing is calling our attention to our environmental impact that we have on the sport. And we should be encouraged to and celebrate some local races because they're good. In fact, we have people in distant places coming to run our local races. So it's not that we don't have good races in whatever area that we're in. So AJW, that one you might as well have read the article and asked me the title because I nailed it. Scott?
That is a really, really good guess, and mine is gonna pale in comparison. But I think it's about the guy that is still driving the 1982 Datsun B210 hatchback, and it's been repaired. It's been the engine's been rebuilt. The alignment may be a little bit off, and it's really not fun to drive. It's the opposite of BMW, which is the ultimate driving machine. This car, because it's been through so many miles and so many issues, it's the ultimate not driving machine. So you really don't want to drive it anywhere, much less 100 miles, because it's probably not going to make it. That's what I think of this.
Because you'll have to push it to your destination. It's easier just to walk or run it yourself, besides bringing your car.
And did I mention there's a bumper sticker on the back that has a picture of a wildebeest, and it says GNU.
He worked that in there.
And he's eating beets.
AJW, straighten us out.
Yeah, you guys are both wrong. But earlier in the year, our friend Candace Burt announced on social media and elsewhere that in 2024 she would be staging the first ever 300-mile race down in Arizona. And this article is the story of how far is too far. How far is this distance push? 200, 250s, 300. Are we looking at a future with 400 and 500-mile races? What is the limit of human endurance with respect to this sport we love so much? It's kind of where is the final frontier, right? It started with 100 miles, and for years and years and years, that was the pinnacle. You run 100 miles, there's mystery, but we've got 100 miles figured out now. 100 miles, we know what you need to do for nutrition. We know what you need to do for gear. We know now we've got this 200 and 200 plus miles. There's a lot more known about that. Planning for sleep, planning for nutrition, using the right gear, making sure you're prepared for the elements, all of that. Now we're moving beyond that. Even 200 milers have become normalized. So it's 300 Tour de France, 350. We're going bigger and bigger and deeper into this how far is too far. So the article, which we've all heard, we've all talked to non-running friends who, when you say you run a marathon or you run 100 miles, and they say, oh my gosh, I don't even like to drive that far. This, I really don't like to drive that far, is how about these 300 milers? How about these 350 milers? How far is too far? Now, the article doesn't pretend to know the answer. There's no answers in this article. It's more just questions. When and if this pursuit of more distance, where or if will it end?
That's in.
Go ahead, Scott.
I just want to do a little intro. We have an upcoming episode that's going to be airing with Davy Crockett, where he talks about classic ultramarathon beginnings, a new book that he has. And he talks about, I'm trying to remember, Don, which race it was, but it's an old time race that was 800 and 30 miles?
Yeah, in the Redwood Indian Trail or something. It was a group of Native American Indians that ran the Redwood Highway Trail. It took 5 days for them to run it. I forget how many miles.
The Redwood Indian Marathon.
Yeah.
Which started by competed by Native Americans in 1927 and 1928 along the new Redwood Highway in California and Oregon. Yeah, like 800 miles. Now, this was more of like a stage race. They would stop and they would sleep overnight and the next morning get up. But 800 plus miles nonetheless. Yeah.
Well, then obviously it's not new. It's just coming back.
Yeah, so,
out with the new. Oh no, in with the new, out with the old. No, what was it? Out with the new, in with the old. Got it.
Hey, I recall back to the podcast that we had Tim Noakes on, and I'm really telling the story so I get to say that we had him on because he's an icon as a researcher, as a runner, just as a thought leader. And we asked him the question, how far is too far? How far should we be running? And his answer stuck with me. And maybe it was just to bring it to this show so that I could say it here and maybe I don't have to carry it anymore. But he said, I think that the ideal distance, any guesses? Scott, you were there, so you can't guess. What do you think, AJW? What number do you think he came up with? It is a race number. It is a number that we know, and there are many races with that distance. What did you, he said that's the ideal distance for the human body, not to take too much out of it, but still put in everything that's good about running. What do you think that distance was?
100K. 100K.
No.
And the reason I would guess 100K is if, a relatively fast runner would be able to do that in the course of a day, wouldn't be sleep deprived, would not have to spend too much extra energy getting nutrition because it's going to take, let's just say, for the super fast people it's going to take 6.5 hours, and for others it might take 12 or 16 or 18 hours, right? Like the classic 100K cutoff time for qualifying for Western States is 18 hours. Even 18 hours, you're not staying up all night. You're not. So I think in terms of taking care of yourself, nutrition, gear, circumstances, he probably said 100K.
And his answer was very interesting, and probably the reason that I still remember it. He said 13.1, a half marathon.
Half marathon.
He says, but there are additional benefits for going longer and deeper that are more psychological benefits, but not physical. You start to wear on the body, cause some trauma to joints and muscles beyond the half marathon. So the 13.1 is the magic number he shared with us, and anything else, there are benefits, but it's not in the body, it's above the neck. So I thought interesting.
I don't remember that. That's man, you pulled the deep one out of that memory bank of yours, Don.
Yeah, well, I probably misremembered it, but I remember that one because I thought, why are we running so far? And was it good that he said it on a long running podcast? So, that's why it stuck with me. All right.
Funny.
Hey, that was a good one. Thank you, AJW.
Good topic.
Yeah, good one. All right, to you, Ryan. Roll those die. Spin that wheel that we call the bingo wheel, and let us know who's next.
I don't remember ever having a bingo wheel.
Well,
do you, Scott?
I don't think I've ever heard of a bingo wheel. There's not a bingo wheel.
There's not a wheel in bingo.
All right. Hey, this is, audio podcasts are good for imagination.
Oh, it says Don.
Oh,
the wheel.
See? All right. Yeah. Who would have figured? So,
bingo.
It's fun until it's not. And that's spelled N-O-T, not K-O-N-O-T, or with a G, Scott. It's fun until it's not.
Oh, boy. Go ahead, Andy. I think you're going to wax philosophic on this one.
So
I'm going to interrupt you first, Andy. I know you're thinking about it. You guys, what do you think? Is it easier to go first or second? Is it a favor to hand it off to the other guy? Is it going first easiest?
Oh, the guessing?
The guessing. Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I think it's hard both ways.
I do too. I do too.
I mean, it's hard, but unless Don goes first, then it's easy to go second.
Very good, AJW. Go ahead.
So we on this podcast for years now, we've been talking about the boom and the growth of the sport and all of that. This article is about people who come in and then leave, and they come in because it's going to be fun. They see the videos, they see these beautiful mountain vistas, they see, the aid stations and all the pretty looking people out running on the trails without a care in the world. And it looks so fun. It looks so much fun in these videos and news and magazine ads and podcasts and everything else. And then you actually get out there and you do it. And it's kind of not that fun. It kind of gets you don't have anywhere to go to the bathroom, and you chafe and you smell, and it rains and snows and is hot, and it's not fun at all. It's not at all like it is in the videos or in the magazine ads. And this is just now that we've been at the sport long enough, this is an article about this kind of these waves. The three of us, we've been in the sport a long, long time, but we know people are coming and going out of the sport all the time. And I think most of the time what this article is about is they come in because it's going to be fun, and they leave because guess what? It's not fun.
So this article pulls back the curtain. Is that what you're saying, AJW?
Exactly.
Good guess.
I'm actually going down the same line as AJW, but I think it's more pointed at the issue we have with social media and the pretty pictures that we paint or that you see on social media with the cute Lululemon outfits and the smiles and the perfectly done hair. And when you really get out there, that's not what trail running is or ultra running is. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of dedication. It's a lot of early mornings when you don't want to get up. And I think that social media has done our sport a disservice. So it's a scathing editorial on social media.
Boy, both of you guys are wrong. So this one's hot off the press. I mean, be careful with your thumb because you might smear the ink. That's how fresh this is. And I've got to thank Brian Metzler, who is been on the podcast, a friend of the podcast, and he also writes for Outdoor Magazine. And it sounds like this program's sponsored by them. Well, it's where I landed and couldn't get away from because there's so many great articles on it. And I think you're going to like this one. He entitled it, "The Taco Bell 50K requires strong legs and a stronger stomach." Oh, this one's good.
Oh, so it's like the beer mile? The beer mile with tacos?
Yeah, this is a run that they do in Denver. And the gentleman, Dan Zolnikov, he came up with it with his running buddies and his running crew. And as we know, I want to talk a little bit about Brian. He's a long-term running journalist and author who has founded and contributed to numerous media organizations. So Brian is a wealth of information. I was happy to see him write this. In fact, as I was reading it and thinking, okay, how am I going to summarize this to the guys? He writes so well, I'm just going to read part of the highlights out of this because he does such a fantastic job. Imagine you're 12 miles into a running race and you arrive at an aid station where instead of refueling with energy gels, you're required to eat a 550-calorie Taco Bell Crunch Wrap Supreme.
Wow.
That's it. This is a 31-mile race with completely running from one Taco Bell to the next. And your assignment when you get to that Taco Bell is to look at the back of your bib and see what you have to order at that Taco Bell. And you have to eat it and then run to the next one. But catch this. You have to carry your wrapper with you, much like Barkley Marathons, to prove that you ate that item. And so people are carrying around these wrappers. They're running this thing and they're having a great time doing it. They've done it for about 6 years, I think I read here, and they're only increasing with popularity. There's more people joining in all the time. So it's fun until it's not. Held every October for the past 6 years and loosely coinciding with the National Taco Bell. With the National Taco Day. It's unconventional, entirely unsanctioned fun run that has several ridiculous rules. You have to get to each one. You have to pay for it yourself. They're not aid stations like we step up to the table and we just start filling ourselves. You have to pay for each one of your. It's not paid for by the race. There's no special Taco Bell chip that you present with. You've got to bring your own cash. So this is something that I think the ultra running community is fun. It's crazy. They enjoy one another's company, and they do ridiculous things, sometimes just to laugh at one another.
I think I remember our friend Corey Reese did something similar to that. He ran his own, I think it was 100-mile race, and it was dotted to connect all of the Maverick convenience stores in the St. George area where he lives. And so each aid station, he planned it like every 5 or 6 miles, there was a Maverick convenience store, and he had to eat or drink something that he purchased from the convenience store. It could have been, a Yoo-hoo chocolate drink or a Hostess apple pie or something like that. But I love that idea. I think it's brilliant. Hey, I love it. We need to do something like that, Don.
They had about 40 participants, so this is not a small run. They're a group moving through, and then Brian talks about type 2 fun. He said that running the Taco Bell 50K is what many ultra runners call out of the ordinary. Type 2 fun, something that conceptually sounds fun before and afterwards, but in actuality, it is not fun while it's happening. So that's
I thought it alluded to like type 2 diabetes is what you meant by that.
No, that's the donut run. I think you're in jeopardy there, but it sounds good before and after, but while you're in the middle of it, not so fun.
Hey, Andy, remind me the story of the Western States training run,
ice cream run
involves
the
ice cream run. Tell for those people who haven't heard about that. Tell us how that started and what that involved.
Yeah, this is it's nicknamed the Ice Cream Sandwich Run. And it was like many things, like many of the more unusual traditions at Western States and Western States training. It was started by Tim Tweetmeyer, 25-time finisher of Western States, and he typically would stage this run with himself and a group of friends about 7 weeks before the race. And they would start at Cal 2, which is about, on the normal race course, is about mile 75 of the race. And they would run against the direction of the course, all the way to the Swinging Bridge, which is the bridge down at the bottom of the canyon, that Deadwood Canyon, which you climb up to Devil's Thumb on. And then they would run along the normal direction of the course. The plan was to run from the direction you go up the course. You do very relaxed pace. You stop at Forest Hill, you stop at Michigan Bluff, you soak in the creeks. It's a very casual kind of fun run for that first 26 miles from mile 75 back up the course. Then you turn around and you try to run your race day splits back to Forest Hill, where you're required to go to the Forest Hill General Store and buy an ice cream sandwich and a 16-ounce soda and eat it and drink it. And the Forest Hill General Store, over the years, the sodas evolved, where it used to have to be a Coke. Tweet loosened up a little bit and allowed Sprite and Mountain Dew as he aged, but he never wavered on the ice cream sandwich. And then you had to run the final 8 miles from Forest Hill back to where you started in Cal 2, and you had to do it in 75 minutes without puking. And if you didn't do it in 75 minutes, or if you puked, then you failed the workout and it didn't count. whatever that means, I don't know, but that was what Tweet said. You fail the workout and it doesn't count. Though,
remind us, how far is it from Forest Hill where you down the Coke and the sandwich to the 75-minute finish line? How many miles?
8 more miles. So at this point, you've gone 44 miles throughout the day. and you're wolfing down a ice cream sandwich and a Coke or a Mountain Dew or a Sprite, and then running 8 miles in 75 minutes, and you can't puke. Though the whole concept came from this notion, if you know the Western States course, mile 62, where Forest Hill is a big, huge aid station. Typically, you eat a lot there. You're going to be going down to the Cal Street where you're running all the way down to the river, where historically the aid stations might be a little bit more sparsely supplied. So the theory was you have to get used to leaving Forest Hill with a full stomach. And that was the concept. But now, whether a 16-ounce Mountain Dew and a ice cream. So I did this workout probably 7 or 8 times in my years running Western States. And it was only my last time in 2014, the year I was preparing to run my 10th, where I failed the workout, puking right at the top of the elevator shaft, which is only like half a mile from the finish. And Eric Skadden, who was with me, pulled out his phone, got a video proof of it. The whole thing, brought it, sent it around the internet. Tweet got a hold of it, and you know what happened after that. So, but yeah, funny memory of that. It was, and we would always get a kind of a random group of people who've heard about it, and they're like, "Oh, I've heard this ice cream." I mean, and it was serious. Like, you'd have people try and dump a little bit of their Coke out, or have their ice cream sandwich melt a little bit so that they wouldn't have to eat the whole thing.
Our sport is full of fun traditions, and we call to those. In fact, one of the things that I left out about the Taco Bell 50K is they run it clockwise one year and counterclockwise the other year.
Oh.
They have a number of traditions that they've brought in from other iconic races and placed it inside of their great events. So it's
do you know if the Taco Bells know they're coming?
Yeah, in fact, it says in the article that one of them opened up early to serve breakfast burritos at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah. But they're currently not sponsoring the race, which they should. I mean, the coverage you're getting just from this, right, would offset any costs. But so if I imagine that you guys were probably thinking of the image that went along with this article. You didn't ask about it, so I'm going to offer it up. The article that we talked about, It's Fun Until It's Not, has a picture of 2 water bottles placed very delicately outside of an outhouse. And that's the article for the Taco Bell 50K. All right, Ryan, back to you.
We got to finish it off with Scott's last article.
All right.
Here is my last title. This is a near the end of the magazine. So you've read all the good content. You become a better runner by listening, or by this audio magazine, by listening to these articles in the magazine. And now this is kind of just a fun, feel good article with a little bit of philosophy thrown in there. The title is a spin on a Saturday Night Live sketch that I think it was the 90s or something, called Deep Thoughts by Jack Handey. And this title is Deep Thoughts by Nick Saban. Deep Thoughts by Nick Saban. Andy, you want to go first?
Yeah, I do, because I totally know this one. So, so Don, yeah. Scott always chooses his words very carefully. So when he's talking about how this is, sort of a light and fluffy article at the end of the magazine with a touch of philosophy in it, I think the Nick Saban is just to throw us off, to make us start thinking about college football or Alabama or the SEC. The key word here is deep.
Ooh.
We know.
Spelled DEAP.
GDEAP.
We know that in the boom of of trail running has led to more and more people making their way into the wilderness to run, to explore. And there's no real kind of dignified way to say this. It has led to more and more human waste finding its way into the wilderness. And those of us those of us who are well educated and know that there is a procedure for ridding our for making sure for keeping your impact on the wilderness minimal, and that is to dig a nice deep hole to bury your waste in. So this fluffy philosophical article is about how to behave and conduct yourself well in the wilderness. The intro is basically just talking about digging a hole that's deep enough, that's appropriately far away from the trail, and that then you can bury your waste and not have an impact on the environment. Deep Thoughts by Nick Saban.
You know, so many thoughts come to mind. The fact that you nailed Scott for wanting to do some kind of 12-year-old bathroom humor, really, I mean, that means you know Scott well, right?
By the way, on that topic, Don has a Tesla now, and I don't know if you know this, but it has a feature that you can push a button on your phone app, and the Tesla makes fart noises. Did you know that?
No.
Did you know that, Andy? No. Anyway, I love it. That may be the key feature that's going to kick me over to buying a Tesla.
My 2005 Toyota makes fart noises, but it
comes from the driver.
It's not because of pushing a button.
It comes from pulling a finger. Okay, Don.
And Scott, you know, your article at the end should make people want to come back for more next month and turn the page again. So I think you came off kind of heavy with that topic. It feels like a kind of a 3/4 of the way through topic if you're going that direction. And I like the fact that you're going waxing philosophical, giving someone to close the final page, but then think a little bit. And I think you're tipping your hat on that to what we do out on the trail. That is a time for introspection, to work with the person that you're running with, to kind of solve the world's problems. I think you're signing off this audio magazine with the fact that there's no place like the trail when it comes to communicating and sharing and sorting things out, whether you're with someone or by yourself. It's just magic out there, and you're giving us a feel-good exit.
Well, Andy's couldn't have been further from the truth. It's not about poop, that's for sure. No, first of all, I'm not a big college football fan, and so it comes as no surprise. I didn't know who Nick Saban was until recently. And recently I've kind of gotten to know him, and I don't know if it's because of social media, but there's a lot of reels and short videos of Nick Saban and his coaching philosophy. And he is well renowned within the coaching circles as possibly one of the greatest football coaches or coaches of all time. And he has this quote about discipline that I want to read to you. And then I want to refer an article that we'll get to here in just a minute. But Nick he sums up discipline this way: there are some things that you're supposed to do, but you don't want to do them. So do them. And there are some things you're not supposed to do, but you want to do them. So don't do them.
Mm-hmm.
That's discipline. When you don't want to do something that you know you should because you want to stay healthy, you want to train for, some adventure or a race, you know that you have to get up early and you know you need to do it, but you don't want to. Discipline says do it anyway. And on the flip side, there are things that are probably not good for you, like the triple, the 4x4 hamburger and cheese at In-N-Out. You know that you shouldn't partake of that, but you want to. Discipline says you don't do it. And it's quite a simple statement, and I think that it just sums it up as you're going into the new year and you're thinking about your race goals and your health goals and your fitness goals. If you think and put that quote in the back of your mind, if I don't want to do it, that's the key trigger that says, if I don't want to do it, but I should do it. I came across this article by Jacob Puzey. That's how you say his name?
Yeah.
Puzey. From 2019 called The Steady Dedication of a Lifetime. And I'll link the article in the show notes, but it's a great article where he talks about lifelong discipline on doing things that we don't want to do, but we know we should, to create a lifelong love and ability to run for an entire lifetime. And I think that it's just a really good read. That's why I said this was a feel-good article and a philosophy article. But I think that as we're ending this year and kind of doing a calibration or a retrospective of what happened in 2023, and as we're looking forward to 2024, my goal is to be more disciplined and know to do the things that I know I need to do, even though I don't want to do them. So that's the round out. Any comments, AJW, on discipline?
That was a fantastic round out, Scott. I'm very and I it'll be great to circle back maybe mid-year or so and see how we're all doing with our goals.
Accountable?
AJW,
No. I don't believe in accountability.
I don't think we gave Scott enough credit. Look where we went. Dig a hole and have a bowel movement. That's where we thought Scott was going.
Yeah, Scott. I mean, I was certain it was about poop. So
it was a curveball. I know it was a curveball from the normal.
And I will say you did under promise and over deliver when you told us your topics were really subpar and not up to your usual standards. You delivered. This was good. I would read this magazine for sure.
Yeah. I had some thoughts I had some thoughts on Scott's comment, and I forget who we had on, so I wish I could give that person credit. But I'm sure that this golden nugget is so large that it was borrowed from someplace else. And it was the question that was asked before you make your decision whether to do it or not to do it, or where, as you're in front of that fork in the road. The question that he or she asked themselves was, will this make me a better runner? And if the answer is yes, then that's the direction you go. If it doesn't, then you don't go. And that can go a million places. It could go to your diet. It could go to doing something hard out on the trail. I should run this or I shouldn't. It might even come from not even doing that workout, because if I do it, I'm kind of sick right now. I kind of think I have a cold coming on. Will it make me a better runner if I go ahead and take this day off? Well, sometimes that's the right answer. And so listening to yourself and making that decision on, will this make me a better performer, better athlete, a stronger runner for a race coming up? I think that's how we make the decision, not whether we fill out every cell in a spreadsheet so that we can say we're there. We show up to the race with bandages on and just hanging on. We've got to think of ourselves holistically as a large unit, trying to become the best you can be. And sometimes rest is good medicine. Coming from a guy that probably wants to miss a workout. No. Quite honestly, I think there's a time and a place for hard work and a time for recovery. And we've got to be honest with ourselves and be wise enough to recognize it.
Wise enough to recognize whether it's your body saying not to do the workout or whether it's your mind saying, I just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And if it's your mind saying, I don't want to do it, then you need to take Nick Saban's definition of discipline and go do it anyway.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hey, and I would say, boy, if you're not following Nick Saban on social media, I would highly recommend it. I can't remember. I think it was an I can't remember now. I think it was an interview with I can't remember. Anyway, I found out about Nick Saban and I started following him. And he is the king of one-liners. Good philosophical one-liners to live your life by. I bet you those football players that go to Alabama are better humans coming out of his program.
I think a good show for the three of us to do coming up is to go and find 2 one-liners from him and bring it up for discussion. I think that would be interesting. I would learn from that and learn from your experiences and wisdom there, fellow trail runners.
I think that'd be cool.
That sounds like a good idea. Let's put that together, Don.
Yeah, the words of wisdom by Nick Saban, and the three of us just sort of bat six, collective 6 one-liners around. I think I love that idea, Don.
We could destroy whatever he said in a sentence, and to sum it up, which would take about 10 seconds to read in total, we could probably have it destroyed in the hour we spend talking about it. So
yeah, and let's hope he never ends up listening to the episode.
Well, there's no chance of that.
Yeah, that's a pretty safe bet.
Hey, we appreciate all you listeners out there. This is the last episode of the year. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate the support that we get from you. We wouldn't be doing this for as long as we've been doing it if we didn't get positive comments and support from all of our listeners. So we want to take this time to say thank you.
And we appreciate our partners, that all the ads that do come through have really helped sustain this podcast and pay the hard costs that come along with it. And we appreciate each one of them, and we believe in each one of them. We just don't take anybody that comes by. We're users of these products, and we enjoy them, or we wouldn't talk about them.
And I want to take a minute to thank you guys, Scott and Don, because after several years of cajoling, you successfully convinced me in 2023 to start my own podcast that now has 33 episodes, Crack-a-Brew with AJW. And I'm looking forward to 2024 for Crack-a-Brew with AJW, but also even more than that, looking forward to our continued friendship, our continued fun here on the podcast, and those few occasions every year where our paths cross in person, Memorial Day weekend or Western States weekend or some other place. I think the listeners probably know that we're good friends both on and off the podcast, and that's a lot of what makes doing this feel really fun. And I want to thank you for all those years ago, Don. We don't have to tell the story again, but but I'm going to tell it anyway. All those years ago, when we're walking out of the Western States Lottery, and you come scurrying up to me and you're like, "Hey, AJW, I'm doing a podcast. I wonder if you want to come on it." And I turned to you and I was like, "What's a podcast?"
What's a podcast?
No. More accurately, it was like this. You turn to me and you go, "Who are you? Excuse me?" Ouch.
Anyway, we've come a long way in those. I think it's over 13 years now. Yeah. So great stuff. So end of another year.
Well, we appreciate
cheers
you too,
to everybody.
AJW.
Yep. Been great to become friends with you. You would have never been our friends because we could have never caught up with you. Winning, coming in second in 2005 Western States 100.
2005. Yeah, that I knew that. Something rang a bell with 2005. That was a fast year.
We almost made it through the whole year without a mention of 2005, and you guys had to throw it in here in the last minute.
I wonder if we kept track of if 2005 is mentioned more or the SKT of 2020 is mentioned more.
And do some research, Ryan. Do your AI research and find out which was mentioned more. Hey, we hope everybody has a great holiday season, a good new year, and you're getting out in the trails right now in North America. It's a great time to be running, unless it's you have 3 feet of snow in your backyard. Even if there is, it's probably still a good time to go run. We wish you season's greetings and run
Mas.